Welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast, where today's thought leaders discuss how they're using the latest social media strategies and technologies in marketing, sales, customer service, and HR. Get ready to be inspired as our guests contribute to your digital transformation through their stories, knowledge, and insights into what works in today's digitally connected world. And now, here's Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast.
Hey there, welcome to episode 194. I'm Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso, and your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. Hey, thanks for listening. Hey, on this episode, I'm excited to bring you my conversation with Diana Eadington Reed. Diana is a director who leads the North America Small and Medium Business Marketing Team for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Solutions, which is a portfolio that helps high-growth, small and medium-sized companies leverage their infrastructure to innovate faster, get to market first, meet customer expectations, and keep costs in line with revenue. On this episode, you are going to hear how experienced Diana is in driving pipeline by executing marketing strategies that support the business. Diana enjoys designing ahead of the curve, integrated digital marketing and sales alignment strategies with clear ROI. She's spearheaded B2B lead to revenue funnel optimization efforts, innovative global marketing and sales enablement programs, and creative digital demand generation initiatives. On this episode, you'll hear how Diana is leading a demand generation program that's based on harnessing propensity to buy data to create sales-ready conversations. Now, this episode is sponsored by Frost & Sullivan. Vengreso has partnered with Frost & Sullivan on the launch of the Sales Team Alpine Retreat, S.T.A.R for short. If you're not familiar with Frost & Sullivan's S.T.A.R Executive Mind Exchange, it's a unique opportunity to participate in the leading sales leadership think tank event. The S.T.A.R event will take place February 7th through the 9th, 2018 in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. There's still time to get registered if you're listening to this in January. So just go to frost.com/Vengreso, and we will link that up in our show notes page, of course. And Diana is also a speaker at the Frost & Sullivan Sales Team Alpine Retreat. And you'll hear a little more about that later in this episode. All right, well, let's get to my conversation with Diana Eadington Reed. Diana, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thank you, Bernie. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Let's get right to it. Diana, where I want to begin is I want to provide a little more context, a little more substance on your role at Oracle as the head of SMB Cloud Technology Marketing in North America. What is the scope of your responsibility? It sounds like a big job, by the way.
Where my focus is to drive demand for Oracle's cloud technology solutions in the North America market. That encompasses companies up to 500 million in revenue, from the startups all the way up to that size, so kind of approaching the mid-market. And what we're doing is helping customers, our customers and companies to transition from the legacy frameworks of on-premise technology systems to more hybrid and more agile cloud-based infrastructure systems in the infrastructure as a service and platform as a service space.
Cool. Well, this is a great time to be doing that, right? Making that big transition. So I know that from a demand gen standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, you've been doing a lot of inbound marketing, a lot of what I'll call, and I guess we can say this in 2018, traditional inbound marketing. Maybe a few years ago, it wasn't so traditional, but it certainly has become traditional. So maybe you can touch on that before we get into kind of where you are now in 2018. What are some of the strategies and tactics that you had success with in traditional inbound marketing for demand gen?
Sure thing, Bernie. So I think most marketing listeners in the podcast today will recognize that marketing has largely and still is largely focused on driving marketing qualified leads to sales when you're in a demand generation and an inbound role. So several years ago, we would look at the volume of MQLs that we could give to sales as a primary metric of how we were doing in the marketing space. And what we have come to realize over the last few years is that with the growth of digital consumer behavior in the B2B space, not all traffic sources or leads are created equal, and therefore not all marketing qualified leads are created equal. You have some leads that might be people that coming to your website that are expressing a greater interest. Those are probably higher value prospects for your sales team than people who might be on a third-party website downloading a white paper. So when you look at this whole model of MQL as a primary way of measurement, it really forces in today's world the question of like, who really is wanting MQLs. If you look at your buyers aren't interested in MQLs. They're interested in solutions to their business problems. And when you look at sellers, they're not interested in MQLs. They're interested in conversations with accounts that they're targeting. So really, MQLs have been a KPI or performance metric that marketing has used to justify the value that it adds to the business. And what we've transitioned to in today's world is, and in our organization, is that we're more interested in finding those conversation ready leads that we can give to our sellers versus just pure MQL volume.
Interesting. Now, I didn't know that buyers didn't want MQLs. That's a new one on me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I love the way you frame that up, right? Buyers want solutions. Sellers want sales conversations. And then your last point about how, what sellers really want is sales ready conversations. So I think that's a great segue to kind of where you're evolving to, right? So, as we were preparing for this podcast, you shared with me where you're moving toward. You're coming from this volume-driven, MQL-centric demand gen model to evolving toward a sort of a account-based marketing model, but really focused on using data that demonstrates people's propensity to buy. So if you could begin to explain that, let's start that conversation.
Sure. Just to set the context, when you look at the way that you're doing inbound marketing and kind of trying to qualify the value of different MQLs or inbound leads, one thing that we have looked at is varying our core leads from our non-core leads. So what I mean by core leads are people that are hand raisers coming directly to us. Those would be people that are engaging with our chat function on our website, calling our 800 number telesales line, requesting a trial or a demo, or directly requesting a meeting with us. And those core leads, when we start looking at the data analytics, they convert at a much higher rate than what we're calling the non-core leads. Non-core leads could be defined as the more traditional demand gen marketing activities like a white paper download, an event attendee, a newsletter sign up, or maybe somebody who attended a webinar. And so when we look at our data across the board and we segment it into core and non-core, there's quite a large differential in the conversion ratio from a lead to a sales qualified opportunity that has pipeline associated to it. What we're focused on now is to try to increase the volume of those core leads because we know they'll be bigger contributors to our business. And we're still doing all those other activities that fill the bucket for non-core because there is just a limited number of prospects in the market at any given time who are what we call conversation ready. And we still want to nurture all of those other prospects who are still in the awareness and consideration phases. So we still run, all of our traditional activities, but we're really trying to rev up the volume of core leads that we're driving to the business. And you can think of it in kind of an 80-20 rule. In a best case scenario, you can probably drive 20% of your leads through core activity. And then you still want to rely on maybe 80% of that broad scale demand gen to keep that funnel warm and keep prospects aware of your solutions.
Yeah, fill the top of the funnel so that you can nurture them and eventually get them to become core leads at the bottom of the funnel, middle or bottom.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So explain to my listener how you arrived at the current model that you're working on, which is using intent to buy data.
Right. Well, this is a really interesting part of the market that marketing professionals can now take advantage of in the B2B space. 5 years ago, we didn't have the capability to access intent-based data or predictive data, but now there are several vendors in the market that are able to identify surging behavior of people online. So looking at digital behavior and matching online search on different networks to keywords that would parallel your solution offering. So what we're seeing, and this is kind of where we shift towards more of a targeted or account-based approach, is that we can now take our targeted buyer profile and customer segment and even company lists that we want to get to know and engage with. And we can identify whether there are people within those accounts who are showing digital activity based on their keyword search behavior that matches to our solutions. And from that, you can serve campaigns or do digital retargeting to try to reach those accounts and generate interest in your solution.
Love it. Okay, so what you're saying is that in recent years, there's technology that has come available that really makes this possible. I'm going to ask you to unpack that a little bit. I know that you've got 3 criteria that you want to share with my listener. But before we get to that, Diana, I do want to pause briefly for a message from our sponsor, Frost & Sullivan. Vengreso has partnered with Frost & Sullivan on the launch of the Sales Team Alpine Retreat, S.T.A.R for short. Our CEO, Mario Martinez Jr., will be presenting a session on digital selling strategies and tactics. Now, if you're not familiar with Frost & Sullivan's S.T.A.R Executive Mind Exchange, it's a unique opportunity to participate in the premier sales leadership think tank event. It's an interactive and collaborative PowerPoint-free event to brainstorm, benchmark, and generate action plans with fellow sales leaders who work across various industries. You're going to love the location. The S.T.A.R event will take place February 7th through the 9th, 2018 in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Now join us to mix and mingle with forward-thinking sales executives and thought leaders. Now, as an event partner, we have a $250 savings for all Vengreso subscribers, our podcast, our newsletter. So for more information on the Sales Team Alpine Retreat event, visit frost.com/Vengreso. Again, frost.com/Vengreso, and visit our show notes page for a link to this page. Diana, now that we've played that little sponsor message, we should remind my listener that you are a speaker at that Frost & Sullivan event where you are doing a session on, what is it, CMO Insights?
Yes, looking at who's steering the ship in enterprise sales, marketing or sales. So I'll be speaking on a panel.
Love it. Can't wait to be there and see that firsthand. Fantastic. All right. So where we left off was there are some criteria that you look at for this model, this predictive data model. So do you want to unpack that for us?
As we move towards an account-based strategy, and account-based marketing is a hot topic in the market. So I'm sure your audience is already moving in this direction as well. But account-based strategy in the way that we're pursuing it involves 3 core pillars. So we're looking at, firstly, the fit of our target account list. So that would be, looking at, what size company are you going after? What job personas are you trying to reach? What geography or geographies are you targeting? The second pillar would be engagement and measuring, has your target account list already come to your website? Have they downloaded white papers or registered for events that you can track? So, being able to track who's coming to your website becomes very important so that you have that understanding and you can create a topic score for various prospects. And the third pillar would be intent data. So overlaying intent data on top of the fit and the engagement. And there are third parties like Bombora or Sixth Sense that are able to provide intent data of who is showing active interest in topics that match to your solution area. And from that, you can develop an ideal customer profile, which is a core to any account-based strategy to really understand, who is it that you are trying to sell to or provide a solution to and provide value to, and really understanding that persona, the buyer behavior, and what will be important to them.
Okay, now I want to address something that you said earlier. You focus on the SMB market. You said, if I jotted down my note correctly, up to 500 million in sales is the target. Okay. So that means you're working in volume, right? Because you mentioned that earlier. Part of your goal is to do demand gen, in volume. However, as you know, account-based marketing is typically not associated with volume. It's typically associated with large enterprise, I've heard you use the phrase white glove treatment. So can you comment on that, on how you're approaching this model, even though you're in an SMB high volume environment?
Yeah. I mean, this is another area that I think is really evolving in the digital marketing space today. We've had account-based marketing for years, and it's typically been at the top of your enterprise account list, where it's worth the investment to have very personalized service, very close coordination between the sales account manager and the marketing team. And it's logistically possible to execute a high value account-based strategy for a small number of very important accounts. While ABM continues to advance and evolve in that very kind of top tier space, what's interesting now is that with digital marketing and the tools that we have available, we're able to scale account-based strategy into the volume and velocity space. So for example, where I lead in the North America SMB segment for cloud technology solutions, we have, there are thousands of customers in North America and companies that we are interested to reach and let them know that Oracle has great solutions for high growth startups. Oracle's typically been perceived as more of an enterprise solution provider, but we actually have fantastic cloud solutions for that high growth startup from the, $0 to $100 million revenue segment and higher, all the way up through the enterprise. So what we can do with our account-based strategy is, rather than target our top 50 accounts or 100 accounts, we can target our top 5,000 accounts in a campaign where we're trying to get a message out to a certain segment in the market about the value of our offerings and how they are a good fit for that company size, perhaps industry, their geography, and addressing their pain points at a cost point that's competitive with other solutions in the market.
You've alluded to a few times here the technology. So maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit. What are some of the technology enablers that make this possible, this whole ABM approach in a volume, SMB higher volume scenario? What are some of the technology enablers?
Well, some of the enablers are around data analytics and really having good BI capabilities to understand lookalike marketing, understand your buyer profiles based on historical success. And then I mentioned the intent-based providers give insights into, people that are currently in market that you might be able to reach in real time. And then I'd say that equally important are the alignments with other key stakeholders and kind of process-oriented matters. So taking an account-based approach actually puts marketing in a better alignment with the sales organization. So in the past, when marketing was really only focused on driving MQLs, we were looking at the marketing side at engaging with individual prospects that were associated to an MQL identification. If you talk to any salesperson, they are not interested in selling a product to an MQL. They're interested to own an account. So if they want to go out and, win like 10 new accounts in the coming half or fiscal year, they're going to be looking at the account perspective, not at the MQL perspective. So if marketing pivots to an account-based strategy, it requires marketing to align with sales to understand who's on that target account list for the year or the upcoming quarters, and who are the most important accounts that sales wants to open the door with. And then marketing can actually work hand in hand with sales to try to build engagement, build a relationship, and open that door for that conversation with the sales organization. So just by nature, the model of an account-based strategy is better aligned with sales. So from a process perspective, you have to really have that tight alignment. And there's more orchestration involved between marketing and sales, but it should drive a better output.
You probably don't know this, and I wish I could say that I was brilliant in planning this, but it was complete coincidence that the previous episode 193, this is 194, was with Barb Giamanco, and it was all about marketing and sales alignment, but it was more at the strategy and process level and even the culture level. So what we're speaking to here is the technology enablers that are available now, Diana, as you point out, that weren't available just a few short years ago. But I would like you to comment on, from a marketing and sales alignment standpoint, how easy or not does the technology enable the relationship? I'm talking people relationships now between marketing and sales.
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that the technology has evolved in ways that allow better targeting. So for example, if you know which accounts you're going after, you can do focused digital targeting of your content through banner ads or, online advertising to those accounts. And you can do that at the geography level, the account level, the persona targeting level. You can use platforms like LinkedIn, which is broadly used by a lot of B2B decision makers. So, the tools are just, the technology tools are just more ample than they were several years ago. There are also now technological vendors that will do lead enrichment or contact enrichment. So if you've done some lead capture, but you've got incomplete contact information, you can do lead enrichment. And really the full MarTech stack is much more robust now than it was several years ago that support a whole lead generation to nurture funnel that helps that prospect to a conversation ready point that is appropriate to then engage with the sales organization.
Yeah, I want to mention to my listener that I don't have the episode number in front of me, but it was probably about 20 or 25 episodes ago. I interviewed Scott Brinker, who is famous for his annual MarTech Stack infographic. And in 2017, there were over 7,000 companies on the marketing technology tech stack, which is mind-boggling because in 2011, in 6 years, it was less than 200. So it's just exploded in growth. So what I hear you saying is that all these tools and technologies really have enabled the marketing organization to really do some exciting things to not only do better demand gen, but to do it more in a way that is valuable to sales, where sales is raising their hand saying, yes, this is valuable. This is great.
Right.
It up. So we love you guys in marketing. Let's get to a quick success story before we bring this to a wrap. I know you've got one that you can share.
Sure. So I wanted to share an example of a campaign that we kicked off probably a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, that has actually broadened into many more campaigns along the same lines. But it's with a vendor called MRP Prolytics. We started working with them really before we were strategically approaching account-based strategy in the volume and velocity space in this kind of like high volume methodology that we're doing now. But what they offered for us was a multi-touch digital campaign that included intent-based data as well as account targeting. So what we were able to do was to provide a list of our select accounts, our content, and, align with our sales organization on who we wanted to open the door with. And we were able to work and build a campaign that was branded with our branding and creative guidelines that included multiple touches that would reach out to people who were showing an intent to purchase in the market based on their digital behavior. They would be nurtured once they showed a propensity to buy through their intent behavior. They would be nurtured with our content and driven to a microsite where they could learn more information about our solution offerings. They would continue to be nurtured. They were offered a survey, and they responded all the way through the campaign. They were televerified by the partner that we worked with on the program. And only then was that lead flowed to our sales organization for qualification. And what that did was really cut out a lot of the kind of chaff in lead flow. So we didn't get any bad contacts because we had account contact validation set up. So it saved our SDRs on their time and resources and made them more productive with the leads that they did have. It also allowed us to receive prospects that were further down the funnel in the lead nurture process than a lot of the other kind of traditional programs that you see in the market or that you can run on your own because of the multi-touch component and the intent-based data being baked into it. And the ability for us to target our own account list, gave us the ability to start doing an account-based targeting approach a couple years ago. And, we've only kind of gone further from there forward and expanded our methodology and evolved kind of our sophistication level with this type of program. And it's just a great example of the way that you can take all of this strategy and put it into a campaign that's executed into a market.
Love it. Love it. It's a great segue, Diana, to my last and final question before I segue to my summary. You've already begun to sort of comment on that. We're recording this in early 2018. So if you could maybe comment on, what do you see for the rest of 2018 as this program evolves for you?
Yeah. Well, I think I see a large shift across a lot of different companies and industries towards account-based strategy. It's just it gives a higher level of return than, kind of an inbound lead model where we see a certain level of conversion and then it flattens out. Account-based allows for personalization in a way that is a higher value engagement with a lot of prospects. And it allows for a better alignment between marketing and sales, which is really the job of marketing, is to, help drive the business with sales support. And sales is responsible to close revenue. So we should be aligned with sales. So I see more of a pivot towards account-based strategy. I see more capability to engage with people digitally. A lot of B2B consumers now, have preferences of how they want to learn about solutions and companies that offer solutions. And a lot of that is digital. And when you look at your MarTech stack, it's very important that you're using your limited budgets in a very targeted way that will deliver a return on investment. And the third thing that we've seen over the last years is that there continue to be a growing number of decision makers that are involved in every B2B purchase. So in the past, you might have sold to one or two people in a technology department. There's data today that shows that decision-making team or that buyer team could involve, 5 people, 7 people, maybe even 15 or 17 people in a large organization for an enterprise purchase. And so that in itself means that companies need to be visible to the whole decision-making team or as many of those decision makers as they can. And you can achieve that with digital targeting that's effective and a coordinated and well-orchestrated account-based strategy with, your marketing team, your SDR team, and your prime sellers. So that's where I would see the market heading.
Terrific. That's a great summary of where you're headed. So I'm going to attempt now to do my summary of the highlights from the conversation. And then at the end of my summary, Diane, I'm going to ask you to either fill in any holes, or if I jog your memory on a point that you either forgot to make or you want to elaborate on something, feel free. Just keep it kind of brief because at this point we're kind of toward the end of the episode, and then we'll bring it to a wrap. We began our conversation with a brief introduction to your role at Oracle. You're head of SMB Cloud Technology Marketing in North America at Oracle, where you're driving demand for Oracle Cloud Technology for the SMB space, which you characterize as up to about $500 million in revenue, and basically helping those companies transition from legacy software to the cloud hybrid infrastructure model. And you talked a little bit about how you were doing traditional inbound marketing. And those are my words when I say traditional, very focused on driving MQL, marketing qualified leads, looking at that as a primary metric and doing it in volume. However, as you said, not all leads are created equal, and buyers don't want MQLs. They want solutions, and sellers don't want MQLs. They want sales-ready conversations. So your team said, hey, let's really focus on finding and delivering conversation-ready leads rather than focused on MQL volume. So, and then you actually define the difference between your core leads and your non-core leads so that you could focus more on driving more core leads. Core leads are those that are more bottom of the funnel, people who raise their hand, they maybe are, on online chat or call in on a phone number, request a demo, a trial. They convert at a higher rate as opposed to more non-core leads or top of the funnel where people download a white paper, maybe attend a webinar or an event, or they sign up for a newsletter. So, you want that 80-20, that 20% of your leads being core. Did I get that right? 20% being core?
Yeah, it's a good benchmark. I think you can, it's going to be different for every company, but yeah, if you're looking for a target, I'd start there.
Yeah. Okay. And then you really began to move in the direction of using intent or predictive data because the technology is available to actually allow you to identify people who are showing, intent to buy, or they're behaving. Maybe they're conducting searches using keywords that are, in parallel to your solution. So it allows you to take a target list and identify people within that target list who are searching and then matching that to your solution. So you looked at the 3 core pillars for this approach. Number 1, having companies that are a fit for your target audience. And that's a function of size of company, persona, geography, etc. Also engagement, how are they engaging? What topics are they engaging on? What kind of content are they engaging with? What white papers are they downloading, etc. And then what are they demonstrating in the way of intent? What is their online behavior, and how does that indicate that they are actually looking for a solution that you provide at Oracle Marketing Cloud Technology? So that allows you to develop the ideal target customer profile. And so you've really evolved toward this ABM, account-based marketing approach, which historically is associated with a large enterprise environment that's focused on high-value accounts, a small number of high-value accounts, and using digital marketing technologies. However, now, because the technology is available, can scale to the SMB market. So instead of ABM in your world being a small number of accounts, you can target thousands of accounts. And the technology enablers that really make that happen are data analytics, business intelligence, buyer profiles, intent-based information, so that you can really identify people that are looking now. One of the many, many great benefits is better alignment with sales. Sales doesn't want just a sale. They want an account that they can do business with over the long haul. So also providing an account-based perspective, again, rather than just one sale perspective, and really has allowed you to pivot toward this ABM approach, even though it's a higher volume approach. And there's lots of tools that are available. And I think you touched on several, including tools like LinkedIn, for example, not just the technology enablers from vendors, although there's lots of vendors that also contribute things like lead enrichment and just, very robust marketing technology stack that really can manage the whole lead gen to nurture to qualified opportunity. And then the example that you shared was with a vendor that you work with, MRP Prelytics. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got that right.
Okay. Collaborated with them to create a multi-touch digital campaign and account-based marketing that allowed you to align with sales on the specific target accounts, so you can contact the people that are showing intent based on their online behavior. And then through targeted and nurtured content, you drove them to microsites, offered them a survey, eventually contact them by phone, and then eventually some of those are sales-ready conversations that get handed to an SDR. And then we wrapped up the conversation with, what do you see happening throughout the rest of this year, 2018? And really what I heard you say, Diana, is more and more of the focus on account-based marketing, again, in your world of higher volume. It's a higher level of return over traditional inbound. It allows for more personalization, allows for higher value engagement, more personalized engagement, and really allows the B2B buyer to engage with your brand in a more relevant way, and allows you to reach more decision makers, especially since there are so many decision makers involved in the typical decision process. It could be 5, it could be 7, it could be 10, it could be 15. So it allows you to be visible to all those stakeholders. So Diana, that is my summary. Is there anything that you would like to add or elaborate on?
I thought that was a fantastic summary. I wish I could have said that as succinctly. Just to close, I would say, account-based marketing is a strategic approach that coordinates personalized marketing and sales efforts to open doors and deepen engagement at specific accounts. So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'll look forward to more of your podcasts in the future and future guests.
Fantastic, Diana. Thank you. Where would you like to send my listener online to connect with you and learn more about what you've got going on?
Your listeners can find me on LinkedIn. I'm linkedin.com/in/Diana Eadington Reed. On Twitter at Diana E. Reed. Your listeners can find more information about Oracle's cloud technology solutions at oracle.com/cloud. And again, thanks so much.
All right, fantastic. Well, Diana, my listener knows that we will link all 3 of those up in our show notes so that my mobile listener, I assume they're mobile, most people are mobile when they're listening to a podcast, can just find that on our show notes page at vengreso.com. Well, Diana, thank you so much for joining me here today on this episode of the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Diana Eadington Reed, Director, North America Small and Medium Business Marketing Team for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Solutions. This has been episode 194, titled Harnessing Propensity to Buy Data to Create Sales-Ready Conversations. I've got one big takeaway that I want to share with you about my conversation with Diana. As you know, marketing and sales alignment is a hot topic that I've covered on the Social Business Engine podcast many times, including on the most recent episode, the previous episode, 193, with Barb Giamanco. Using propensity to buy data, as explained by Diana Reed in this episode, is a powerful way to move away from the conventional MQL, the Marketing Qualified Lead metric, which is largely based on volume, and instead allows for creation of leads that are ready for sales conversations. This method, while Diana explains is still evolving, shows a lot of promise to produce the kind of results that are beneficial to sales and to the customer. Now, as we covered on the previous episode, 193, marketing and sales alignment is more than an internal thing. The biggest winner through effective marketing and sales alignment is actually the customer when brands deliver a great experience. The approach that Diana explains, harnessing propensity to buy data, or another way to say that is intent to buy data or signals, creates a better experience for both the salesperson and for the customer. So, hey, what's your takeaway from my conversation with Diana Eadington Reed? Leave your comments in the show notes at Vengreso.com. Just visit the podcast section to find episode 194. I want to remind you that this episode is sponsored by Frost & Sullivan. Vengreso has partnered with Frost & Sullivan on the Sales Team Alpine Retreat, STAR for short. This is a collaborative PowerPoint-free event to brainstorm, benchmark, and generate action plans with fellow sales leaders who work across various industries. The location is awesome. It's in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, February 7th through the 9th, 2018. Again, if you are listening to this in January, you can save $250 by going to the page where you can learn more about it and register. Just go to frost.com/Vengreso. And of course, we will link that up in our show notes page at Vengreso.com. Just visit the podcast section and you'll find it there. Hey, while you're there, be sure to subscribe to get the Social Business Engine podcast delivered to your inbox each and every week. And if you're in sales, be sure to subscribe to my partner's podcast, Selling with Social, hosted by Vengreso's CEO, Mario Martinez Jr. Well, hey, that's a wrap for episode 194. I want to thank my guest once again, Diana Eadington Reed, Director, North America Small and Medium Business Marketing Team for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Solutions. This is Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso, signing off for now and wishing you continued success on your social business journey.
Thank you for listening to the Social Business Engine podcast. Be sure to tune in again next week to reconnect with Bernie Borges for more insights, inspiration, and practical advice on social business. Visit socialbusinessengine.com to catch even more content on social strategy that will rock your business and your career.